and for our listeners, I just really want you to hear this, is just that there is nothing the power of the resurrection cannot redeem in your life, cannot redeem in your marriage. Hear this again. There is nothing the power of the resurrection that it cannot redeem in your marriage, in your spouse.
Welcome to the podcast. We're so glad you joined us today, and you're in for a treat. In a few moments, we're going to introduce you to somebody who is very special to us.
Yes.
But we're talking broadly in this last month about marriage and about the importance of belonging for us. We were all made for communion, and as married couples, this is our path to holiness.
Yeah.
And that belonging grounds us, beginning with our identity, but then goes further by creating a space for us to
And one of the
belong.
reasons we wanted to do this interview today is because I feel like we can talk about belonging in a very positive sense, but sometimes belonging also can make us a little uncomfortable.
That's right.
And can bring up things in our life that the Lord wants to heal in us. And so we thought this, our guest, Father Shawn, is the perfect person to have on to talk about this, because this is something I know that he's really passionate about for married couples. And so, so we thought we would bring in an expert here for all of you to wrap up our session on belonging this past month that we've been working on.
So Father Shawn Monahan, he is a priest of the Oblates of the Virgin Mary. He is the novice master. He is a trained and certified spiritual director. You do parish missions and retreats. You're an all-around amazing priest.
No, but more importantly than all of that, he's our friend.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Right? Welcome, Father Shawn.
Thank you. I'm excited to be with you. I know we've been working a little bit together over the last couple of years, and my heart is excited, and that you finally invited me to come on to your podcast.
I don't know why it's taken us this long. I just want to say one thing to our married couples here. So Father Shawn was just with us in the Bahamas. He's done several getaways with us, and he'll be coming with us again next year.
We'll be going back down.
Going back to the Bahamas in 2027. But when he arrived, so, and like Mike mentioned, Father Shawn's a novice master for the Oblates. And I feel like you're like a dad with your kids who then gets a weekend away with adults. So when Father Shawn showed up to the getaway, he was like so excited. He was like, yay, I get to talk with my friends, my adult friends, right? He was like bouncing off the walls.
Well, and we've known Father Shawn for ages. And I don't think we're going to go into all the sordid histories.
We can't tell all the stories.
No, maybe another podcast.
That's right. No, but for those who
do
have
Father Shawn outtakes on another podcast.
the couples who have who've been with you on a getaway,
yes,
have you make the survey every single time as saying, I've never met a priest like Father Shawn, and they meant it positively. But there really is a joy about you. There is a authenticity, a beautiful spirit about you. So we love having you on the getaways, and we're glad we can have a conversation today. Just curious.
What's the best part of the getaway for you usually?
Besides getting away, what's really amazing is those little conversations and relationships that seem to happen very spontaneously, providentially, and I love just like the family feel that we have as a group, and then as our weekend ends, it's like there is a sadness that we're leaving, and so. But there's also looking forward to, like, really hope you get to come back again. So I would say it's the relationships, the connections, belonging.
Yeah, it really, right? Seriously though.
Right.
And there were two people this past time. Well, this isn't to flatter you, but just as it's that God works
Father
through
Shawn's
you.
like, no, stop. Seriously, stop.
But just the beauty of having time with us as lay married couples with you as a priest.
Yeah.
And two of the individuals said they've come into greater communion with God because of you. One One of them really coming into the church because of you, right?
Yeah.
Over time. And the other one, for the first time, really encountering Jesus in a very real and personal way on that getaway. And there's something wonderful about that. There is just a great gift when we as lay can connect and just be together and
Have real life priests with us like yourself.
yeah. Anyway, it's great to witness your vocation in action, and thank you for that gift.
And I hope we were a
Well,
blessing to you.
no, 100%. No, thank you. Thank you. It's beautiful.
Well, I think it's really evident, and this kind of goes right into what we want to talk about, is your love for married couples. And it just kind of gives me goosebumps. It really warms my heart to have a priest come who so evidently loves the married
Yes.
vocation. And you like when one of the things we did on the getaway is we played everyone's wedding songs, and people got up, and your face, you were just like a proud father, like watching really all of these married couples. Like it was so beautiful to see a priest like just rejoicing in the married vocation, and it's your heart for couples is so evident. And so that's one of the reasons we wanted to have you on, because you do these workshops on the path to healing our broken hearts. And I know that they're for people from any vocation, I believe, not just married couples, but I know you have that heart for married couples. So actually, could you just explain, like in a nutshell, if someone came up to you and was just like, Father, I hear you do these workshops, like
Yeah.
what's that all about? Like, how do you usually answer that question?
Right. One of the things I would point them to is that we have on our Oblate webpage, or you can just Google Path to Healing the Broken Heart. You'll find what is my virtual workshop. And it's stuff
Mm,
that I've been working on, I would say, for the last, I don't know, 15 years or so, since I started doing formation work and then spiritual direction and retreat ministry. And it is my own experiences with Dr. Bob Schutz at the John Paul II Healing Center, and just
awesome.
seeing a real great need for healing, healing
Mhm.
for our seminarians, for those in marriages in general, because I think it was B16. Benedict XVI said that healing, when understood at a sufficiently deep level, expresses the entire content for redemption.
That's right.
And yeah, there's just a great joy of leading people closer to the Lord so they can experience healing, because that's what Jesus does.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, and you've walked with many couples through, or many individuals, both in
Hmm.
person and through the
Hmm.
virtual
Mm,
workshop now, right? And what you see it, I know we
Hmm.
see it. There seems to be a greater need for healing, or at least a more
Yeah,
an awareness of it today.
that's true. Yeah.
Do you perceive that? And I don't know
yeah,
if any reaction to what's going on.
yeah. Um, well, I believe that we're entering into another season of healing in the church, and I say another one because I believe like the first evangelization, there was so much healing that was happening in the early church that. Um, that was part of spreading the exciting good news of
Yeah.
the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that we are living in a society now that is just increasingly fragmented and broken.
Yes.
I read somewhere recently that if you want to know the interpretive key for understanding what's going on in our world today, it's trauma. And so we need
Mm,
a trauma informed spirituality
mhm.
uh, to bring healing, that the world can only offer so much,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but Jesus is divine physician, and that's his specialty. He's a heart physician, and he wants to heal hearts.
Yeah, yeah, and
Mm,
you have the kind of ready and willing oftentimes coming to you, right? They're all ready to go.
Yeah,
They're eager for it. Maybe before that, as as people who are listening, right? Some of them
yeah,
are like, "Oh yeah, that's me," but
mhm.
yeah,
then how about like I feel like sometimes people hear that word trauma and they're like, "Well, I'm not in an emergency room,
right,
mentally, spiritually, physically, or whatever," right?
Right.
But there's another real sense where we've all experienced some level of trauma at some point
yes,
in our lives.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you could speak to that, because I
Like
feel
sure,
like,
defining
yeah,
trauma, you mean?
well, even just helping people be more reflective of why they may need to
Right.
think about
Right. Healing.
healing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Here's a great quote. forgot exactly where I found it, but it really stayed with me. Is that there's only two types of people in the world: those who are hurt and those who are hurt more.
Mm.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah.
we're all hurt. We're all broken.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I addressed in the beginning of the virtual workshop is that how do you know you have a broken heart? And the Latin word for heart is cor, C-O-R. So here's the C are the things I can't stop doing that I know are having a negative impact on my relationships with others. Within my own self, my people pleasing, my perfectionism, my my addictions, my compulsions, those things that I bring to confession over and over again. And I feel like I'm a repeat offender. I'm like, oh, these are things I can't stop doing. So I have a broken heart. The O is when I am in a difficult situation, do I find myself overreacting either inwardly or outwardly? It could be sadness, could be anger, it could be a place where I just shut down and I walk away when I'm overwhelmed.
Mm.
You have a broken heart. Do I have here's the R, reoccurring like emotional pain, stress, anxiety, grief, regret, anger,
Mm.
hopelessness, suicidal ideation. It's just like I'm just struggling here
Yeah.
with anxiety, and it just seems to be reoccurring. And when I say that, I said, please don't feel any shame in this. It's like
Yeah.
we're born into a broken world to imperfect parents, and we're all going to experience some level of just wounding because of that reality.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Father, I think you may have turned off your video by accident because all of a sudden we can't see you.
Okay,
There we go.
let's
Now you're
see.
back.
Okay, boom.
I think your screen
Great.
went to sleep. All right. So yeah, because that it's just being aware of it, and
hmm
so then how do we? What's the beginning? So recognizing that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and where do we go?
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. So yeah, the first step is just being
Yeah.
aware
Sure.
of your own brokenness.
Absolutely. Right.
A theme that, or a foundation that's in the virtual workshop, but I learned this from seminary formation, the three dynamics that we need to grow and mature in the Christian life, profoundly. Like grace builds on nature. It's the
Yeah.
human formation that we all need to start off with. This is self-knowledge, self-acceptance, and self-gift. And so that self-knowledge is an awareness of my wounds, of my
Right.
brokenness, that I'm overreacting. So awareness, thoughts, feelings, desires. Self-acceptance is where do I find my identity? Do I find it in my
Mm,
achievements, or do I find it in my failures? And you know, the truth is my identity is received, not achieved. That's
yes.
my tagline is like, God loves you and there's nothing you can do about it, and that's self-acceptance.
It's
And
true.
Just get over
boom, drop
yourself.
the
He loves
mic.
you. Right.
And then when you have self-acceptance, you move into self-gift. That's where we find our mission, our vocation in life. Ministry, I received myself as gift. Now I want to make a gift of myself. And so, yeah, the first step is being aware. Like
Mhm.
where are the wounds? And then to be curious, like where did this first begin?
Yeah.
Where did this take root?
hmm
Yeah.
So in that journey of self-acceptance, I think a lot of times people see in themselves desires, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Desires, and I think sometimes as Catholics, it's like we go to extremes. In the modern, really our pagan society, they'd say all desires are just give in to all your desires. They're always good. But then sometimes we as Catholics, we kind of go to the other extreme and we say, no, 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 my desires are bad. They're bad because they're leading me to addiction or they're leading me to these other areas. Can you just explain the truth in that? Because I've heard you say this before, and
Mhm.
it was really helpful for me to
Sure.
understand the role of our desires
Yeah.
in our pursuit of holiness.
Great, perfect. No, yeah. So a little etymology on the word desire, and I learned this from Dr. Bob Schutz, that the word desire comes from a combination of the Latin and the French. D is of or from, and sire, it means father. Like in Old English, to
Mm,
sire a child
Mm,
is to father a child, and so we have three fathers with three corresponding desires. We have
okay.
desires that come from God the Father. These are spiritual desires, to draw close to Him, to be reconciled, to pray. That though these are spiritual desires, to go on a retreat, to want your marriage to be better.
yeah.
these are spiritual desires that clearly come from God. Then we have desires that come from our father Adam. These are basic needs and therefore very basic desires. We have a desire, a basic need, and therefore a basic desire to be affirmed, to be blessed, to be
Mm,
included,
Yeah.
to feel safe, to feel chosen, to feel understood, for intimacy, and to be touched appropriately. And I can rattle those off pretty quickly because I came up with an acronym, which is a biscuit. Like we all have these basic needs from our father Adam. So when I just say a biscuit, it includes all of it:
yeah.
affirmation, blessed, included, safe, chosen, understood, intimacy, touched appropriately. And so
Mhm.
and then we have desires that come from the father of lies. And this is to your
Right.
point,
Yeah.
is this like the father of lies? That's what Jesus calls Satan, the father of lies.
Yeah.
He is the one who will twist and pervert our spiritual desires and our basic human desires. And so
Mm.
the most of the areas that we struggle with temptation and with sin is going to be like, where have I not received a biscuit in my life?
Mm.
I'm longing for it. So St. Ignatius, in his Rules for Discernment, rule number 14, he uses this image of like the commander of an army that's looking to conquer, a walled-in city. He's going to patrol the wall. He's going to look for where the weakest point is. And
Yeah.
so it is, the evil one patrols the border of your heart and my heart. And he's like, where are you missing a biscuit in your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to tempt you there because,
Yeah.
I'm going to, because I haven't received it in a legitimate way. I'm tempted to seek it in an illegitimate way.
Hmm.
And so, and what this is saying, that even like all our desires, even the most perverted desires, really the scandal of it is that it has God at the source. G.K.
Hmm.
Chesterton said that every man who walks into a brothel is seeking God. So
Right.
with sin, it's you'll remember this. I don't know if
Yeah.
all your listeners remember this song, but looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
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 It's
Yeah.
whether you know it or not,
Yeah.
you
Buckley's
sang it.
version is better,
You
Right.
but
lived
yes.
it. That's what we do with sin. You're just looking for love in all the wrong places.
You know
And
what?
those,
Well,
yeah,
well,
go
you know
ahead.
what strikes me about that is that Satan can't create desires. All he can do is take the desires that God has
The
given us
twist it.
and twist them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think it's so good for us to recognize is that this desire is not coming from Satan. He is just taking what God has given us because we've been created good, right? And
yeah.
he's just twisting it and lying to us, and I think people have to recognize that and have that, like you're saying, like look a little bit deeper and say, okay, wait a minute, where have I been lied to here? There's nothing wrong with me per se.
Yeah.
It's like I'm
Yes.
believing these
Well,
lies.
and help me. And I think I've
Yeah.
got this here, Father, but I'm slow. So I want you to fill in this, make this bridge. Okay. So I have a desire for something that ultimately is good, maybe
Mhm,
twisted, maybe disordered, maybe off track.
mhm.
That ends up creating a whole mess of problems in my life. What does that have to do with healing?
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Well, I would say the key is to be curious. Like, why am I doing this? Where is this coming from? It's not what's wrong with me, but it's what's happened to me. And I
mm,
think that we can look at some of our behaviors, if you will, those things that we don't, that get us in trouble, and not to shame ourselves. Shame just stops the healing process, but
yeah.
really to kind of look at it more curiously and with kindness towards yourself, of like, what's going on here. And I think like that's, again, this is like that self-knowledge. Is just
That's
like, I
right.
want to know what's under the surface here. And I think that's
Mm,
so important to have that posture of curiosity and kindness, because shame is just it
It
stops the
kills it.
process. Yeah.
And because what I have in mind, based on what you just shared, is like, okay, we have an innate desire or a need for affirmation,
Yeah.
and I'm just thinking of myself, right? I
Yeah.
have that need, and sometimes that need makes me feel weak, as
mm,
if I needed other people, and then because maybe I didn't either receive or haven't fully appreciated, I have a wound in my affirmation. So then
Yeah.
I will try to protect that weakness that I perceive, and I
Mhm.
lash out at my spouse.
Yeah.
And ultimately, when you think about And you, again, I think you could probably put almost all the marital conflicts or the conflicts we have in our world come back to that simple, like there's something that's off in us, because we talk about this a lot, but there's something off in us that probably needs some healing for me to relate to other people the way we were meant to. Does that make sense? Does that?
It does. It does. And a really deep level. Adam Young, in his book, Making Sense of Your Story, great book, highly recommend it.
Yeah, yeah.
He says there's two laws of neuroscience. And he says, like, our earliest life experiences and our earliest relationships have shaped our brain and how we relate and connect to others more than later life experiences.
Yeah.
And so it's this, like, when we have in marriage relationships this tension, this this fight. I think Dr. Bob in his book Be Devoted said that if an argument lasts more than 15 minutes, it's not about the spilt milk. There's something
Yeah,
else that's going
that's
on
right.
Yeah.
there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah,
Yes, yes, and that I think again, this is just a simple diagnosis that you said, like that self knowledge, that curiosity, like being
yeah,
aware of that, and then what? So then, if we okay, it's like okay, there's something off here. Kind of trace it back a little further.
yeah,
What do we do about that if we're
Yeah.
pursuing something that's disordered, or
yeah.
what do we do with that?
Yeah. Well, we're talking about a couple of different avenues as far as if well, let's just jump right to the chase. Christianity. Sister Miriam says this: Christianity is not behavior modification. It's not stop it. It's
Yeah,
not reform
yeah,
school.
yes,
And but
And
so
a
what
lot of times
is
people think that it is. So
it
thank
yes,
you
is?
for
Yeah.
saying that.
yes,
Thank you.
Yeah, and so what is Christianity? It's an encounter with the risen Lord. It's about transformation. It's about Jesus wanting to take our wounds and to sanctify them. Julian Norwich said that when we get to heaven, our wounds will be our trophies. And so to
yes,
really leverage our wounds and our brokenness, that this is the occasion for me to really come in my poverty before the Lord and recognize I need a savior, I need a healer.
yeah,
And
Mm,
so I think that we begin with letting it bring us to our knees. We don't have to run from it. But it takes courage because none of us really wants to look at our wounds.
yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
as a kid, you fall, you scrape your arm, and mom's like, "Hey, I want to look at it." And I'm like, "No, let's just keep this hidden. Can we?
Yes.
I don't want to look at it." I also know she's going to spray that stuff on it, that Bactine thing that is.
Stings, doesn't it? But
But
it's good
Jesus
for you.
doesn't. Jesus doesn't sting. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
No, no.
Well, you know what? It makes me think of just yesterday. When we were at daily mass, the deacon gave this homily about healing, right? And about people who reached out to
Yes.
Jesus for healing. And he talked about how sometimes, and this is in regards to physical healing, not emotional healing, but he said sometimes Jesus doesn't choose to heal. And he talked about this one priest who was experiencing like a degenerative nerve disease and went to Lourdes and saw Jesus in the Eucharist, like not had a vision, but just was like during the
procession.
Eucharistic procession. And he said with great faith, he said, Jesus, I know that if you will it, you will heal me. And he said he heard clearly, Jesus said, I don't will it. And he was not physically healed. But, and the point that the deacon was making, he said, but this was for his transformation. This was
yeah,
for his holiness. We don't understand
Who are we in some ways to
exactly,
know what
because
God?
some people may think, some people, I mean, obviously there are, I shouldn't say some people, there are wounds that have been caused by people who are innocent victims, right?
yeah,
Wounds of childhood, many wounds from childhood, right? No child is responsible for that. And they may think, why, Lord, why did you allow this to happen? And in many ways, that is a mystery, right? That
it
is a
is.
mystery. But we can trust. I would love to just hear your response to this.
Yeah.
But my automatic response is I just know I have a good father. But what do you say to those people who come to you and say, I didn't do anything and I had this horrible thing happen to me and now it's affecting my children, my marriage, my relationships. Why? Why did God allow this to happen?
Yeah, but and so the key word you just said is allowed. very often what causes a lot of confusion is that they say, well, God willed this to happen. And God doesn't will it. You know, you could say it's his permissive will that he allowed it,
Mm,
but that
mm,
there's nothing that well, this is the mystery of free will that we have, you know, since Adam and Eve, that God gives us that free will to choose life or to choose death. But there's also, and here's the good news, is there's nothing the power of the resurrection cannot redeem.
Amen.
yes.
I'm going
Yeah.
to say that
Yes.
again, and for our listeners, I just really want you to hear this. It's just that there is nothing the power of the resurrection cannot redeem in your life, cannot redeem in your marriage. Hear this again. There is nothing the power of the resurrection that it cannot redeem in your marriage, in your spouse. And that is believing, that is faith, that is trust, that is confidence. And how that happens is a mystery, you
Yes.
know, and
Yes.
and I I think it was John Eldredge said, you know, the how question is always God's problem, you know? And so when we get stuck, like, Lord, I don't know how it's going to happen. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know,
True.
Mother Teresa, if she stopped at how, you know,
Yeah.
We don't
she's
do
like,
anything, right? We
yeah,
can't
yeah,
go anywhere. We just take our loaves and fishes, we do our part, and we trust the rest to him.
How is
And
yeah,
God's
and
problem?
because I think there are for most of us, right? We have a desire for something more. We have a desire for something better. We don't always know how to get there. And this pathway to healing, I've noticed in the 10 years we've been doing this podcast and the 7 years that we do in this ministry full time, I have found that oftentimes, both for in my own experience, but also in other married couples, that issues and problems seem to bubble up in your marriage later. Not that you don't have challenges all along in marriage,
mhm,
but that there is a safety that comes in my marriage that
Yeah.
gave me like that an issue that I didn't realize was still there or was still present or
Like
was still
childhood wounds or
the
whatever.
things that I'm
Yeah.
like, I thought I dealt with this, or I didn't even know this was here, but because of the love of my spouse, I see something with new eyes, or I'm allowed to, and I have the strength to see something I wasn't willing to see before. Like when you talked about you skin your arm and you don't want to
mhm,
show it to your mother. Part of
mhm.
that, at least emotionally and even spiritually, on some sense, there is some shame involved, but there's also just I maybe couldn't deal with it
Yeah.
until I had a little stronger. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you have any reaction to
I'm sure
the
you've
fact that
Sure.
seen that as
marriage
Yeah.
well.
brings up stuff.
Yeah, it does. So why does marriage bring up stuff? Well, to love is to be vulnerable. And then, like that root word vulnerable means wound, vulness. I think it means
Yes.
wound. And
Yeah.
so, you know,
Yeah.
you're most, we're hurt most by people we love. But the good news is we're also healed by people we love. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
but that's the reality. It's like C.S. Lewis, you know, he said, you know, whenever you love, you take a risk, you risk getting hurt.
Yeah.
And so that there is no intimacy without vulnerability. And yeah, you know, it's an occupational hazard to love anyone.
I
Is
know.
you probably will be hurt.
And
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the beauty, like you just said, just to repeat that, it's like there is a risk when you step into any relationship, but particularly in a marriage relationship where you're covenantally, bound together. But that's actually also the path towards healing. You know,
Yeah.
Hmm.
it is. I look at my life and I have received healing from just being loved by Alicia,
Yeah.
receiving that level, and then
Yeah.
even through the children that together we were able to bring forth, that I have received healing in that context
In your
of
fatherhood.
family, in me loving my kids or being loved by my children. It's like, wow, how
Yeah.
good is our God? And again, that's just in the natural design, if you will, of God
Mm.
for
Mhm.
that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
And I would just highlight this: that love always heals.
yeah,
Hmm.
Love always heals, and I say God's love heals always, but love always heals, and it's healing just to love your spouse. It's healing to love your children.
Hmm.
I think it was Mother Teresa said, you know, you want to go change the world, go home and love your family.
that's right.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah, it's just loving. It's just a
Hmm.
gaze, a touch, the affirmation, the words of affirmation are always healing,
And that kind of,
always.
I was thinking that you're kind of answering this question about how spouses can help each other,
Yeah.
in this path, and not shame each other, because that can certainly happen, unfortunately, right? When your spouse maybe reveals a wound, maybe the other
Mhm.
spouse reacts from their own woundedness, and there can lead to like a degeneration, if you will. How can we reverse that? How can we help each other
Yeah.
as we on this path to healing and vulnerability?
Yeah, to be intentional and loving. And so here's one way. The in the workshop, I talk about biscuit. These desires that we have from our father Adam, and if it is true, and it is, that we have these basic needs, that there's a longing and there's an ache in our heart for them, that these are universal. So in a biscuit, I'll take two of them, I'll put them together: to be blessed and to be touched. Like, to
Mm,
be blessed is to be special in someone's eyes, to experience that. Like, if you hold a baby, you're
Yeah.
just waiting for that baby's, like, the baby's looking around the whole world, and it's just like they lock eyes on you for a few moments, and your face lights up, their face lights up, and it's a joy cycle. It's six
mm,
cycles per second of communication that's going back and forth when someone just delights in the other. And so, to and I've done this, like, for some of the marriage. I did a couple marriage, workshop things where I say, okay, husband and wife get together. I said, for 5 minutes, you're just going to hold your spouse's hands and you're just going to look at them. Don't say anything. Don't hug them. Don't kiss them. Just hold their hands. And can I just, in that gaze? And for some people, that's very emotional, very intimate. And other times it can be very uncomfortable. And they're like,
Yes.
mm.
oof. And I'm like, so lean into that.
Yeah.
So there's one way, of just like holding hands and just looking at them and not
Mm,
saying anything. And so we have a basic need to be affirmed. The root word of affirmation is firm, to make firm one's goodness. And, love
mm,
languages. It's just like, I don't, maybe I'd like to say we never tire of being affirmed, but sometimes we can, because we might
Mm.
have a poor self-image. And so, without realizing, we can deflect or make a joke about the affirmation. And I would say, to be intentional as couples, to affirm each other and to be able to receive that.
exactly.
Or maybe even say, what, that's hard for me to receive that. Thank you.
Mm,
I think
mm.
just admitting that.
That's
Uh,
beautiful.
another way I would say is intimacy. So when I was preparing couples for marriage, that the definition that I picked up pretty soon was like, into me you see. That's like, okay. You're most intimate when you're vulnerable. And I think Dr. Bob says that the word intimacy actually means into fear, which means I have to let down my guard
Yeah.
if I'm really going to be intimate. And so we did this at one of our getaways, where we just had the couples just hold hands and look at each other, and
Mhm.
just, the what I always say, I'm not always, but I like to put it on the husband to start and just say, dear God, and just share what's on your heart. What's your prayer? Lord,
Mm,
thank you for, the gift of my family, my work. I come before you and I lift up this situation. And you're just letting your spouse know what's going on in your heart, and
Right.
just what your struggle is, what your fear is, what your hope is. And then when you're done, just say amen. And then it's your spouse's turn, the other one, just to say, dear God. And, like, maybe you're praying for your kids or something, but it's just like you're letting each other see what's happening in your heart. And then you
mm,
finish with amen. And I think because that is so powerful, it can be very difficult to do. We resist going there. And for spouses, very often it happens, like, one spouse is really open to it and the other one's not, and it's okay, we need to do this. And it's like, maybe going to confession, it's like after you're really glad you did, but it's
yes.
like getting there was hard. And
Right.
so I would say that for intimacy, and then, like, to be understood, I would say this is really it's a basic need we all have, to be heard, to be understood. And I think as children, our parents aren't really good at modeling this.
Yeah.
Like, who really listen to their kids? We're parents are really good at giving unsolicited advice, but to
Mhm.
listen is hard. You almost have to be a
Mm,
trained spiritual director to listen well. So for those spouses who want to really listen well, I'll give you the pill, the easy pill to listen. Take a leaf. ALEVE. So I got this from Bob
The
Schutz's
acronym
book.
priest.
I know. I got this from Bob Schutz's book. He didn't have a leave. I had to throw them together so that I could remember it. And
I
so
love it. It's great.
it's to put aside your perspective, like when you're talking. That's the A. Put aside your perspective. The L is just to listen to understand. I'm not judging. I'm just. And then the E is allow, as you're listening, let empathy begin just to build in your heart.
Yeah.
And don't even respond back until like you really felt it. And then, so the VE in Aleve is to verbalize that empathy. So it's like, what I heard you saying was, that's basically, and so John Paul II said that is tenderness. When we verbalize our empathy, we share back. That's tender. And so I would
Mm.
say it's like to be understood, to be intentional, to listen, to pop on a leave. It'll probably take a lot of pain out of your distressing communication
Yes.
if you just taken a leave and listen. And that's hard, because you have to die to yourself.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time around conversations. It's at the table. We find a way to bring it back to me.
Yes.
We
Yes.
just do.
Whenever we're talking, that's happened sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's like let's stop talking about me. Let's get back to me. Yeah. So and I think the last one I would say here is chosen. Like we have a basic need to be chosen, to be felt like you choose me,
Yeah.
and in marriage being intentional. How do I express that so that my spouse feels chosen? That could be
Yeah.
date night. That could be the opportunity of renewing your vows. It could be turning off the TV when your spouse comes home and it's this like, or putting it on mute. Maybe you can't go so far to turn it off, but can you mute it and just say, how was your day?
Yes.
What was your high? What was your low? And I choose you. And I think when, a spouse sees that you're more important to them than like the TV program or the podcast that you're listening to right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So
But they're listening to it with their spouse right now.
That's
okay,
true.
So
there you
it's
go.
okay.
Or
It's
they're
okay.
going to come and bring this to their conversation.
There you
You know,
go.
before we wrap up, I can't. This time is like flying by,
Mhm.
but I really did want to talk about forgiveness,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because we talk about forgiveness in marriage a lot, as an important, really essential tool, because simply we're all sinners. We all are going to offend our spouse, right, in some way, and I think that there is there's such a huge temptation to just keep going. Just keep going, sweep it under the rug, don't talk. We actually did some mentoring with a couple
Yeah.
who were telling us, they were sitting next to each other, revealing their hearts to us of how hurt they were by
Each
their
other.
spouse, by each other. And I said, well, when you have conflict, and they kind of interrupted me and said, no, you don't understand. We don't have conflict. We don't, because they would never
Just pull
talk
back.
about what they were telling us. They had never really told each other. They were just pulling back into their own camps and not communicating because they were so hurt. And so I think that when spouses, when we can talk about this, I think it's so good, right, for us to talk about forgiveness. It is taking a risk to say to someone, hey, I was really hurt by this. And then also it's very vulnerable to say to someone, hey, I've been thinking about it, and this is something that I want to take responsibility for. And because sometimes you don't know how they're going to respond. Maybe
Yeah.
that'll bring up anger in them, and
Mhm.
maybe your act of kind of vulnerably asking for forgiveness, So I just wonder if we can help inspire people to explain why forgiveness is so important in marriage.
Yeah, like I can feel, and I think just for the listeners is to acknowledge, like when a spouse comes up to you or someone comes up to you and says, "I want to really talk about something that that I I felt really hurt," and it's just like you can feel like your heart just sink, like whoa,
Yes.
and so
Or for me, sometimes it's the defenses come up,
yeah, yeah.
It's like,
So
yeah.
let's talk about what forgiveness is not, because I think there are some myths of what forgiveness
Mm,
is, and it
mhm,
can make it difficult for people to enter down a path of forgiveness because they misunderstand what it really is. So, what it's not, forgiveness is not a feeling. It can turn into a feeling, but it's not a feeling. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's
mhm.
like, okay, if I'm forgiving you, I'm going to forget. No, and actually, the catechism says it's not in our power to forget something.
Yeah.
Mm,
It's just, it's just not there. And so, and it's not saying it's okay. It's not. I'm not excusing your behavior. I would add to it, it's not a legal pardon. So maybe I need to forgive someone else, in my past, and it's like, it's not a legal pardon.
mhm.
If you did damage to, my house, my car, whatever.
Right.
I'm not saying you're I'm not saying you're off the hook. I think that's probably one of the big things that
Yeah.
people can struggle to forgive, because they feel like to forgive is to let them off the hook. And it's not letting them off the hook, it's taking the hook out of you. Um,
Mm, mhm,
because
mhm.
forgiveness has the word gift right in it. Give.
Yeah.
There was a movie called Mind the Gap I've seen some years ago, and there's this scene where this a divorced man is coming to a priest, and he's struggling with, like, get some guilt for his, he had an affair, and he was the cause of the breakup of the marriage. And he's telling the priest, he's like, I have told her I'm sorry, and she's not forgiven me. And he goes, hang on. He's a little abrupt. He's like, have you asked for the gift of forgiveness? And he's like, what do you mean? He goes, say, will you forgive me? And now it puts it on the other person. So, she's saying, I'm sorry, you should be.
Yeah.
But when you say, will you forgive me?
Yeah.
That changes things. And I would say that would be like my first thing is just like forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself, and
Mm,
then it's a gift that you
Mm,
can give to someone else. And sometimes, forgiveness does not mean, the other person, we're all hunky-dory. It doesn't mean necessarily reconciliation. That can
sure.
take some time. Or, say maybe it's just like, I'm not in a safe place here, at this moment in this time. So forgiveness is something everyone can do. Reconciliation, particularly in marriage, is when the other person's able to receive it. We're able to heal that relationship. The word
Mhm.
cilia is inside reconciliation. It means eyelash. So for a married couple to come together and to seek forgiveness, ask forgiveness, give forgiveness, receive it from the other. Now we're coming eyelash to eyelash, eye to eye, and that is a deeper level of forgiveness. So forgiveness doesn't require the other person to ask for it necessarily. It's just a gift I give you, because by being angry at you doesn't hurt you, it hurts me.
yes.
And so it doesn't mean, I'm a doormat. It's just saying, this is like, no, I'm choosing to let go of this resentment that's just eating up inside of me.
Yeah. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? I mean, you said what it's not, but why is it so
Yeah.
hard to forgive?
Yeah. Oh, because it's not human. It's not human.
Really?
I would say,
Okay,
you
I
heard
never
it.
thought of it that way.
Yeah. To err is human. To forgive is divine.
Yeah.
And so, like, we forgive, we are most like Jesus.
Mm,
Mm,
You're most like,
yeah.
so love is, it's total, it's faithful, it's free, it's fruitful. And it's also forgiving. We need to add that to, because that's the cross. You people,
that's
what
right.
is love? It's
Right.
Valentine's Day is coming up, and um, everyone, it's always got an arrow usually in the heart, but it's like you really look for an image of what love is, and you got to go to a crucifix, and it's like, okay, that's what love is,
Yeah.
and that's what, if my love's going to be authentic, it's going to mirror the author and source of love and life. And so adding forgiveness to our repertoire of, like, okay, it's total, it's faithful, it's free, it's fruitful, it's
Yeah.
forgiving.
Yeah.
And so we forgive in and through Jesus. We I had this in our little workbook for the getaway thing. And I don't know if couples, if they got a chance to do it, but it's that it's taking, love is patient, love is kind,
That's right.
like reading that, and then, like, putting your name in there. Michael is patient, Michael is kind. um Michael doesn't brood over injuries. Um, and then you start to feel like, not so much. But
True.
Why'd you
but then you
stop
I mean,
there,
go,
I
Father?
feel like that. Yeah.
yeah. And then you said, but Jesus in me is patient.
Yeah.
Jesus in me is kind.
Yeah.
And that's a great prayer exercise for couples to do. It's just to read that together,
Yes.
feel your own poverty, but then it's like Jesus in me. And so, yeah, I would say that would be my short answer why it's so hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is hard, but there's a way forward, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Father, I have like 15 more things I want to talk to you.
Okay. Can I put the dagger in?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I want one more acronym here.
And yeah, I want to
How
give you
many
the dagger,
acronyms can we
Mike.
fit in here?
Yeah. So taking the dagger out of like this resentment and bitterness between married couples.
Yeah.
So again, like I got this from Bob Schuds, be devoted, but I had to like go like, how am I going to remember this? Because this is really good. But what he's saying, it goes, when you promise to forgive your spouse, this is what you're promising. Here's the dagger. The D is, I will not dwell on it anymore. I'm
Yeah.
promising that. I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Love is patient, love is kind. It does not dwell. It doesn't brood over injury. So you're
Yeah.
promising that. You're not going to bring it up later in arguments. If you do, that means you've been dwelling on it.
Yeah. That's a good indicator.
The G is that I'm not going to gossip about it with my friends.
Yes.
And then the R, so it's not a perfect acronym, but it's dagger it's just an R
Yeah,
at
we
the
don't, we
end.
don't spell correctly. That's fine though.
That's fine, yeah. But I'm going to remain open. I'm going to remain open to restore trust.
Yeah.
And so that's taking the dagger out
Mhm.
of like the bitterness and anger and resentment so that my forgiveness is authentic.
And that's definitely best practices, things that we've talked about in marriage of not talking, not gossiping, not speaking ill of your spouse, which is so important to remember. But I think when you put it in the context of forgiveness, like we're less likely to do that if we have forgiven our spouse. We're not going to gossip about them or speak to other people or speak ill of them. One thing I did want to point out is that when you were talking about praying with your spouse, and even that prayer exercise right there, what I was hearing was a real call to spiritual intimacy, right? Because I think
Yeah.
that we understand on a natural level, right? Of course, that we have physical intimacy with our spouse, and then we should have emotional intimacy as well, like sharing our hearts, our thoughts, our feelings. But that spiritual intimacy to pray aloud with your spouse before the Lord, acknowledging that third person in your marriage, right?
Yeah.
Is something that I know we have really needed to grow in. And I've so appreciated on our getaways and the marriage retreats that we've done with you, your call to that and really walking couples through. Here, this is what you do. Hold hands. Say these words, is really, really helpful because so many of us, it's a muscle that we're really not used to that,
So true.
But it's so important because it's a reality that Christ is as sacramentally bound together. That means that Jesus, God, is in our marriage. And how often do we acknowledge that? Even people who are good practicing Catholics, right? Very often with our spouse, we don't always acknowledge that, acknowledge the Lord. And so I really appreciate that exercise because I think that's really important.
And I'm gonna hand it back to you in a second here, but because you have brought us a bit on this journey, right, and we ended at this right note, I think this conversation has led probably most of us to say, there are some things in my life that I am now curious about, that I do want to go deeper, and I want to travel my own path of healing. And we're when this is being released, we'll be in Lent, right? This is a great time for us to be on a journey and time to reflect on our lives. How can they go on a path of healing their own broken heart? How can our listeners connect with you, with your workshop, with taking the next step, if you will? What options, what resources do you recommend?
So the first thing I would say, the workshop is designed for in theory, it's like it's an individual. I desire to just experience deeper healing in my life, and it's my belief that the path to healing our broken hearts is the path to our own personal transformation and sanctification. How am I supposed to be a saint? It's like you thinking
Yeah.
like, oh, if I go on a pilgrimage, or it's a Franciscan spirituality, it's an Ignatian spirituality, it's going to make me a saint. What's going to make you a saint is healing your heart, and that's the greatest commandment: love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your
Mm,
neighbor as yourself. So it means I got to start with me first, myself, my heart. And I think you can take that same approach and apply it to marriage. It's just like the path to healing. Your marriage is also the path to your sanctification and transformation,
yeah.
and to see it through those eyes, that there you want to grow in intimacy. It's like let's first me look at my own story. Let me be get to know my own story. Have compassion for my own story, and then it's like now I understand me more. Well, how intimate is that to share with your spouse, and to be together on a journey of like, wow, these are events that's happened in my life that had a deeper impact on me than I
Mm,
realized, and how I relate
mm-hmm,
to you when I
mm-hmm.
run away, or I get angry, or I explode. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is why. And so I would say to see it twofold for yourself, but also a invitation to be able to share that, to journey together. Now your marriage has this amazing just kind of goal of
Yeah.
wholeness and holiness, which means recognizing all my holes.
Mm,
And so yeah, I would say the virtual workshop, that you can pray for my book. I'm still writing, trying to write. We're gonna get there.
Yeah, but they can go to
And
the Oblates website. We'll
yeah,
link to that below if they're
yeah,
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
put
interested
the
in the
link
OMV
virtual
USA.
workshop.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be it. And at some point, I was just talking to someone at a retreat I did down here in Florida. They're like, "Where else are you going to be?" And I was like, I should probably put on where we sign up for the virtual workshop, like a little, hey, this Father Sean's going to be here, X, Y, and
Oh
Z.
yeah,
Da da
your
da da da.
schedule. Yeah,
I think
for
it will
Yeah.
be
So
very helpful.
yeah, so I don't have it up there now, but someone just inspired me the other day, so I think that's something that I'll do.
We just announced
Um,
it, Father, so you got to get it.
yeah,
yeah, everyone's going to be looking. Where's Father Sean
yeah,
next?
yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I know this was a huge blessing for our listeners, and I just love the fact that it's not just this podcast, but that they can follow up with those free resources. And
Mhm.
and I do just want to say too, I am so grateful for your vocation. I am so grateful because as part of the Oblates, to have their blessing and their support on this workshop really enables it to
Yeah.
be free and
Yeah.
available. And that's something what a gift of your vocation. And just to encourage people when they go to the website to support the Oblates as a
Mhm.
simple thank you
Yeah.
for them giving this away for free and allowing you to develop this. What an incredible gift, Father. Thank you. We just love your vocation and we love what you've been given
Mhm.
to us.
And Father, could you close with maybe a little prayer and blessing brief for our
Sure.
listeners?
Absolutely. And just a little, just a note, just for clarity for everyone else who might be subscribing there, because you have to subscribe to that workshop. If you unsubscribe to the emails, you won't have access to it. But so long as you're
Sure.
subscribed, you'll have access to them. Where it doesn't time out. So
Right.
and there's a thing that pops up to give a donation. You don't have to. So I'm not shaking anyone down for money.
No,
I
we'll
just
shake them down for money for you. We'll tell them to
I
donate. Don't worry.
but I am excited to be able to share what I've learned, just over the years from formation work and retreat ministry and spiritual direction, and it keeps getting deeper. And so, yeah,
We will be praying for your book. I know that
I
you're
know you're
writing
in
a
yeah,
the
book,
process of it.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
everyone listening, we're just going to push Father Sean over the edge
Oh,
here. I
please,
mean, in the
yes.
best way, over the line, not over
Come,
the edge, maybe over the line.
not push you up against a wall,
Yeah,
not,
and we'll pray for you, Lord, that you, Lord, will just bless your work in writing your book.
And those who will read it, pray for that too, that
Yeah.
when it's all about timing, and so I'm offering like so much of my masses and just sacrifice and struggle to get this done. And say, Lord, that if you can take something with the struggle, and that it will bear fruit in the words, or what's in between the lines, which is the Holy Spirit. That's my hope and
Amen.
prayer. So shall we
Amen.
Amen.
close here?
Oh,
All
please
Do
do.
right.
it.
Please. Thank you.
All right. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of Mike and Alicia, for how they have really stepped out of the boat and trusted you in this ministry. I ask you just to bless that ministry, that it may continue to be fruitful. For all the couples who are listening now, asking, Lord, your blessing upon their hearts. Benedict XVI said, our heart is the organ that we see God with. So, Lord, I ask you to bless their hearts as they may see you more clearly and their spouse more clearly, and that this journey to healing our broken hearts would be one that we would be encouraged, not discouraged. Let our wounds and our brokenness be the things that bring us to our knees, that help us just acknowledge how much I need you. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, descend upon you and rock your world. Boom.
Shakalaka.
All right,
You
thanks.
had to throw that in there.
We knew it was coming.
That's his signature line.
So again, if you want to see what those acronyms were or connect with Father Shawn, we'll put those links in the show notes here of this episode. Again, Father, what a gift, what a blessing. Thank you and have a blessed day. And for everybody else, may the Lord bless you and keep you.